Good morning. So we'll start with our disclaimer here. I'm not a financial advisor. Nothing in this video is financial advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial product. All content is for informational purposes only based on personal opinions and experiences. Trading futures, options, and other financial instruments involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for every investor. You can lose more than your initial investment, so always do your own research and consult with a licensed professional. Okay. Hope everyone was listening to that. And now we'll go to news. Lots on the U.S. news wires today, so I won't go through all of it, but the main things, potentially these Fed speakers, 9 and 9:35. This is all S&P stuff, home sales, and then we've got EIA at 10:30, and then a bunch of other EIA stuff that comes out at 10:30. So there's a lot at 10:30, but 10:30 and then 9 if the Fed speakers say anything, but usually they don't. So 10:30 will likely be the main news driver for CL today. So we can now go to just a quick summary of the pre-market sheet. So yesterday, like we talked about in plans yesterday, we were able to break this 417 prior week high, which initiates one time framing higher on the weekly, and we actually initiated one time framing higher on the daily as well. So daily and weekly are both more bullish now. I said you're opening in a balanced condition because you're opening in this upper distribution, or we're at this upper distribution, but there's pretty much a triple distribution yesterday. But so long as we don't poke higher, like we potentially could also open in a small gap. That's the only, I guess, variance really. But for now, we're opening in range and in a value, not necessarily the value of the day, but yeah. So we're moving higher. We're continuing to move higher. We're making lower highs, or sorry, higher lows and higher highs. Like I said, the swing low hasn't changed, this one, so yes, it's still weak. Yeah, like I said, weekly and daily are both one time framing higher. Prior session, I said both the high and the low are pretty weak. Not much of an excess on either. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. We'll go through the key levels quickly. There's not that much today because everything above here is pretty much untraded. But we've got overnight high above us. We've got yesterday's high, just barely above us. We've got these two on the right, naked settle and naked VPOX. Orange is naked settle. It's a bit covered, but it's there. And then we have a prior day's low, this low. So all of this from yesterday's high to 65.40, so 64.36 to 65.40, almost a whole point. That's all gap. This is all a gap, a partial gap, or not a partial. I guess, yeah, it would be a partial gap, but it's all a partial gap that is not fully filled in yet. So, whoops. So, we'll, I mean, that's the main thing we'll be doing if we are to continue higher. We're just closing up the gap. We're getting all the naked stuff on the way. That kind of thing. And then below us, we've got settle, yesterday's settle, this dash green line. Overnight low. Where's overnight low? Overnight low just above settle. We've got yesterday's low, which again I mentioned was weak. And we've got yesterday's value area, which I put as this middle distribution, is the true value area of the day, in my opinion. So that would be, whatever, 64 to 63.60 or whatever. 64 to settle, we'll say, pretty much. Yeah, so going through the TPO, like I said, my bullish scenario for yesterday was that we continue higher and tag the prior week's high and the prior week's settle, which we did. We also extended this high, I guess, very briefly, that is, or very, not by much. Yeah, like, so, I mean, because you've initiated one time framing, we do have this weak low, and we do have the gap from yesterday that wasn't fully filled. We closed half gap and we turned around, so I guess this cluster of an area, eventually, I think, will, you know, be traded through again, obviously, right? Like, maybe we don't do it today or tomorrow or this week, or we do it next month or something, but eventually we're probably going to want to come back down here and clean this mess up here with this weak low and this partial gap. So it'll definitely be part of my scenarios today, but if we do continue being more bullish, then obviously that's probably not going to happen. So, yeah, like, really, the main scenario is going to be a continuation. So we break yesterday's high, and then really from above yesterday's high, we're just zone to zone looking for continuation. I don't have any major resistance points necessarily aside from the 65.40, the gap close, but it is a point away, so we may not close it all in one day. So we could see something like this happening where we sort of push higher, break yesterday's high, have maybe some shallow pullbacks, but nothing crazy. And then ahead of, or I guess, imagine this is ahead of closing the gap. We sort of round out up top and we sort of just chop sideways near the highs. So we're as close to the gap as possible, or the rest of the gap close as possible for tomorrow, to then get it the next day. That could be a scenario we have. Again, like, it could do it in different ways. Like, sometimes we'll come up, we'll close a good portion of the gap, we'll come down, we'll close near the mid, but then the overnight session goes bid, right? And then this screen is the overnight session, and then we open here and we close the rest, kind of thing. So, yeah, like, pretty much the clear thing for me today is this cluster here of POC, VPOC, and settle. That's my line in the sand for the day. If we're above that, I'm pretty much fine to only look for longs. But if we get below that, then I'll be looking more for, can we stay below? And if we can, do we test this? And if we test this bottom distribution from yesterday, I think we likely at least come down to fix the low, potentially if it's just a poke even, but we could also potentially fix the low and close the rest of the gap from yesterday, which potentially could get support. So yeah, like, settle will be the gauge for that cluster there at 63, 67. I'll be watching that and the reaction there. If we're just trading sideways through it, it probably just means balance, but we do have some news today, so I don't think, we've had sort of 2 days of balance, so I think maybe today could be a bit more directional than the rest of this week, but that's just a guess, really. But volume and range support it pretty well, especially with the lack of liquidity on the news. We could see a bigger move happen, but yeah, so that's the main thing. Like, really, if we hold settle, can we break yesterday's high? If we can, then, like I said, zone to zone. If we break below settle, can we stay below? If we can, then I think gap and potentially, the low and potentially the gap could get fixed up. From there, which could extend lower or find support and continue higher. Like that. Or are we just sideways? Are we just open? We check higher, we can't break the high, we come down, we can't really go offered below settle, and we sort of just do this for the whole day. So I guess those are the main broader scenarios. like I said, we're opening near it. Seto's going to be key either way, I think. Like, unless it really just ends up chopping sideways and not respecting it. But um, I think, yes, I think Seto will pretty much be my line in the sand for bias today. Um, so you can take a look at the 30-minute overnight profile. Most of the volume is pretty well distributed. Um, Decent belly, a bit toothy. You got some of these LVNs here, but overall pretty good. And so with this bearish move now, you now have to go through and work through all of this volume. All the volume that happened in, I guess, this lower box down here, and then this upper box up here. You've now you now have to come back up to work your way through it. So it's a lot, like it's more work to do because people have already traded here and there's new positions here that people are trading, right? So we'll see. We'll see how this move plays out. But if this move here pokes below Settle and gets below, we could see that continue into the open. Like if we can push below Settle, maybe open just below Settle, impulse down, pull back, continuation kind of thing. If this area holds. But yeah, so really like if we go long, I do want to pay attention to this range here and this range here, basically the whole overnight profile to see how we're trading and if, buyers can really collect some momentum or if it's just a slow grind. Are we just grinding, making our way? Because it's like this, a lot of times you end up getting, in a more significant area, like maybe overnight high, but could be anything. Anything that's significant to enough people, and sellers start coming in and you sort of get this rounded top and then it starts moving lower and then you go lower and then you chop around, So we will watch for that kind of reaction on the long side, but it's pretty safe to say if we're holding above settle, buyers are still in control. So yeah, I don't think I need to go into any more detail than that. I do want that 65.40 in my thing. 65.40. Okay, and then we want the lowest would be, I guess, yesterday's low, 62.93. Yeah, that's good enough. And then prior high, this would be gap close, so that's perfect actually. Perfect. So we'll go 65.40. We've got naked VPOX here. We've got overnight high. We've got basically the whole overnight profile. So I'll just put one thing in the middle. Overnight low, settle. And then settle is also prior days VPOC and POC. And then we've got yesterday's low, which is weak. And then we've got prior low, which is the gap close. Okay. So what was this? This was gap close. Naked settle. And VPOC. I'm only going to put one. Overnight high. Overnight value area. Overnight low plus settle. Plus yesterday's VPOC. We've got yesterday's low. Then we've got prior day high / gap close. So yeah, quick firstly would be the most bullish scenario from here. Now that we're much lower, and we had this, I guess, sort of spill because we were opening near the highs of yesterday. Now we're at the, I guess, sort of middle, the real value of yesterday from that triple distribution. Most bullish day would be an impulsive move above. That doesn't really, maybe you tag settle, maybe you don't. Like, you probably do because we're so close. So maybe like this. That impulse is away, but you can't really stay at settle. You know, buyers instantly come in, kind of thing. And if you continue from there and you're staying above, like I said, this is the most work for the day, getting through the overnight profile if we are to continue higher. So we could potentially get choppy in here. But let's say in the most bullish scenario, it continues. We pull back, a couple times, but we're staying above, and then boom, we break overnight high. And we just from there are just zone to zone until this gap close at 65.40. So gap close, we may not get it today, like I said. That's more of an extended target for today, but would be a major resistance. These are just naked, so they're not super important. Overnight high definitely could pose some resistance, and this over under zone, which is also the overnight value area, will be important. That's sort of whole range where this big gray stock zone is pretty much. Yeah. And that's pretty much the only bullish scenario. Like I said, like at least starting from here, because like I said, you don't want to see this thing really stay below settle for too long. If we do, then there's, I think, more incentive to check that bottom distribution from the TPO profile and fix up the low and potentially also fix up the gap down here. So we'll draw that now. Like if we impulse down and we're holding below settle, then I'd expect us to continue potentially with some chop, but this sort of area here is pretty thin, where the rest of these singles are. So we could blow through this quick and then potentially get choppy near closer to yesterday's low. But if that goes, then and we don't get support, then yeah, it'd be gap close would be the extended target for me for that trade. Gap close potentially could pose support, of course. Yesterday's low is going to be the main support area. We'd be watching on a more bearish day. Yeah, and that's pretty much it, right? So, like I said, that I don't draw too specifically. Like, there's lots of variations, and there's lots of, I guess, potential chop areas that we've got. So I'm not gonna draw all that, but I'm aware of it. Like I can draw this one down here. This area potentially could get choppy. As well as, I guess I'll just draw this area. Could get choppy. Overnight value area. So obviously, yeah, lots of variations, but I think now that we're opening at settle, we could get a decision point early. If other people are looking at settle in this area the same way as I am, obviously. So we'll see. Like this test is going to be important, and it's going to gauge, I guess, how the rest of the day plays out for me. Likely, like I said, if we don't respect settle and we're just trading through, then I'd lean more to just chop. And if I just bring the TPO over top, I know it's kind of messy, but just look at this profile. Like if we're not respecting settle, then likely I think it's just filling in all the LVNs and the lack of volume from yesterday. And it may just do that, slowly throughout the entire day kind of thing. So I'll leave it at that. I will pause this and just take a screenshot quickly, and then I'll end it off. All right, here's the final look of the plan. It's done. Took my screenshot, so I'll erase it all now. And yeah, like I said, we could have some movement today, so we'll definitely be watching and paying attention today. And the 10:30 news will definitely could be moving today, so we'll pay attention then, and let's hope we get some good opportunities so I can do a nice end of day trade review at the end of the day once Crude is closed. So yeah, if I do have trades, I'll be back then. If I don't have any trades, I'm just gonna stick to not doing the video because what's the point? If enough people, were to say in the future, like, well, just do a end of day summary for what we've done, I can do that. But for now, I'm gonna keep it where if I don't take any trades, there won't be an end of day review that I record. So hopefully, I have some trades, and I'll be back at the end of the day with that. So, yeah, happy trading.